How did this guy end up in a billion-dollar fraud scheme? Well, it all starts with a guy named Jeff. Jeff's 36, living in California, and honestly, life hasn't exactly been going his way. He's had a bunch of businesses flop. He's behind on his mortgage, getting sued by creditors. At one point, he even tried selling drugs, but yeah, that didn't work out either. Then, one day in 2008, Jeff is just chatting with his neighbor about solar panels, and boom, a light bulb moment. What if you could attach solar panels to a trailer and turn it into a mobile power source? Kinda like a portable generator powered by the sun. So he gets to work, Googles how to build one, and eventually puts together a trailer with solar panels. Not bad, right? He even applies for a patent. This could have actually been a million or even billion-dollar idea. But there's just one big problem. Jeff, a recovering meth addict with no real engineering background, has no clue what he's doing. Sure, the prototype looks decent, but it only works sometimes. The things break down constantly if they work at all. But Jeff doesn't let that stop him. He starts a company called DC Solar and gets a business loan. Then he hires a marketing team, and somehow things start picking up. Fast forward to 2010, and Jeff stumbles on a game changer. A few years earlier, under the Bush administration, a government program was launched offering huge tax credits to companies that invest in green energy, like solar power. Jeff sees the opportunity and builds a new business model around it. Big corporations could invest in his solar generators, whether they worked or not, and in return they'd get big tax breaks. And let's be real, most of these companies didn't care whether the generators actually functioned. They just wanted those juicy tax credits. So Jeff starts leasing out his sketchy generators and making serious money. By 2011, he lands a massive deal. Sherwin-Williams, the giant paint company, leases $29 million worth of Jeff's solar trailers. And again, they don't care about the product. They just want the tax incentives. At this point, Jeff could have taken the win and invested in improving the tech. Maybe hire a few real engineers, actually make the things work. But nah. Jeff decides to blow the cash on, well, dumb stuff. We'll get to that part later. Now, here's where it gets shady. As part of the Sherwin-Williams deal, the company wants to inspect the generators before accepting them. Totally reasonable, right? But Jeff knows his trailers won't pass any inspection. They barely function. So he comes up with a scheme. He tells his team to line up all the working generators in front, nice and neat, and hide the broken ones in the back, out of sight. And just like that, the fraud begins. So when Sherwin-Williams comes in to inspect the generators, everything looks great, at least on the surface. The working units are up front shining like stars, while the broken ones are tucked away in the back where no one looks. But here's the thing, no one really cares. These big companies just want the tax credit, not the actual generators. So Jeff? He's smooth sailing. No one suspects a thing. For now. But success isn't enough for Jeff. He wants more, and fast. So instead of trying to fix his product or grow slowly, he flips his whole business model into something way riskier, a Ponzi scheme. He starts using money from new investors to pay off the leases for earlier ones, and weirdly, this actually works. For a while. Over the next few years, Jeff sells around 1,200 of his unreliable generators, for $150,000 each. That adds up to $174 million. A huge chunk of that money just keeps the Ponzi scheme alive. By 2014, things go even bigger. A regional bank wants to buy a massive batch of generators, but to seal the deal, Jeff needs to prove he has some serious clients, so he fakes a contract with T-Mobile. Total fraud. But guess what? That works too. He keeps landing bigger and bigger deals. One with International Speedway Corporation for $150 million, another with GEICO for, get this, $1.2 billion. Suddenly, Jeff's company, DC Solar, is now technically a billion-dollar business, built entirely on lies, fake contracts, and barely functional solar trailers. But nobody's asking questions, because everyone's too focused on their tax breaks. So, what does Jeff do with all this money? He starts living like a king. He buys 32 properties, mansions, condos, apartment buildings. One house costs $1.4 million, another $2.5 million, and two condos for almost $4 million. He also collects cars like candy, 150 luxury and classic cars. 150? What do you even do with that many cars? Oh, and he doesn't stop there. He buys a semi-pro baseball team, sponsors a car in NASCAR, that's his company logo on the hood, and starts throwing wild, extravagant holiday parties for his employees. One year, he goes all out and hires Pitbull, yes, Mr. Worldwide himself, to perform live at the Christmas party. And here's the wildest part. Even the US government falls for it. In 2016, the Secretary of Transportation chooses DC Solar for a government contract. Jeff's generators still don't work, but somehow that doesn't stop anyone. And just when you think it can't get more ridiculous, it does. Jeff starts making up numbers. Literally. He begins faking how many generators he has. Since none of these companies are bothering to double-check inventory, Jeff realizes he can just say whatever he wants. In 2017, he actually only has about 6,000 generators in stock, but he claims to have 17,000. So he's selling thousands of products that don't even exist. And with that move, the house of cards keeps growing, until, of course, Jeff has $1 billion company, more luxury cars than he could ever possibly drive, and even the US government thinks he's legit. But of course, that kind of scam can't last forever. See, Jeff isn't doing all this alone. He has a full team, a whole company of employees. And after a while, some of them start to notice something weird. The company's still selling solar generators, but they've stopped building them. So naturally, people start asking, how are we selling thousands of units that don't even exist? Eventually, one employee can't take it anymore. They quit and head straight to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And that's when the walls start closing in on Jeff. The SEC launches an investigation, and soon after, the FBI gets involved. In 2018, it all comes crashing down. A wave of federal agents swarm DC Solar's headquarters, and a SWAT team raids Jeff's house. And just like that, Jeff is arrested. Over 8 years and 34 fraudulent deals, Jeff scammed investors and companies out of nearly $1 billion. He eventually takes a plea deal and is sentenced to 30 years in prison. His wife, who was deeply involved too, gets 11 years. And in a strange twist of irony, one of Jeff's final tweets before everything collapsed, he was proudly celebrating Pitbull, yep, Mr. Worldwide, performing at one of DC Solar's legendary Christmas parties.